Hi, and welcome to another video in between other videos. So I'm currently editing together a guitar video I made in the forest as it's starting to climb above the below zero mark, and I'm getting ready for the next EP with Ritual Mord. So before the next Q&A video, I figured it would be a good time to just talk a bit about some of the things that I've been thinking about while I'm out on my walks, and trying to calm myself down to keep focused on the things that I'm really wanting to talk about or think about, rather than just things that takes energy instead of give, or transforms or shares energy, as obviously those things are way more interesting and useful. And so far my channel is pretty small, and I've done my best to do some changes to the way I maybe address or write some things, as I happen to be in a place where I handle what some would call difficult, or I'm not sure what else to call it. It's definitely not inappropriate, and to me it's not hard to talk about. It shouldn't be, and I think that's the point. And when it comes to different guidelines on what kind of things you're supposed to talk about, or I'm not sure what way you're supposed to talk about a subject without bringing it up. What's the point of talking about depression if you're only being vague and not actually talking about your experience? How is that supposed to help anyone? Because I've been to a fair share of psychologists or doctors and therapists, and I know a fair share of people who have been to their fair share, and that's probably the last time I'm using that term in this video, because I felt that was a bit much. But usually those kinds of interactions rarely help, especially if you don't really want to be there in the first place. Because if you want to get help or help yourself, you usually need to be the one instigating it. Of course, it's not always healthy to put all of that weight on your family or your friends or partner or whoever it happens to be that you need in your life to talk about those different subjects with. But everyone can't afford a therapist or a psychiatrist either. I definitely can't. And that's why I've, over the years, worked outside of the system to develop my own methods and systems and strategies to cope with depression and anxiety. And it's still something that I struggle with, so I'm not saying that I'm the person to take the advice from. But at least I have over 20 years of experience with depression, so I feel that at least I have something worthwhile to share about the condition and its different side effects and how you can at least cope with it. And I think I've been pretty upfront and honest about many things concerning these subjects, and I also think it's pretty clear that I'm not promoting things like self-harm, but it would also be inaccurate to not point out occasions when it can be a part of a system that strengthens you as an individual, because there is a very unfair stigma about self-harm in society, and people have many already predefined notions about what it means or why someone would practice it. And if I didn't know myself, I know that if I listened to all of the bullshit that people have said to me or claimed and so on, I would be a far more anxious and depressed individual than I am. And I think many of you who watch this or have had those experiences in your life can agree, and that you can share some of that. But how are you going to have less anxiety about something that maybe isn't not your fault, but it's a coping mechanism that is empowering you, even though it's not perhaps the most positive one? Well, if it's the one thing that keeps you grounded and not disappearing entirely into your depression and hiding away, that can keep you on the path to becoming a better person, isn't that better than just blindly taking any pill that someone prescribes you? And in many cases, if you are a bit of a outcast, that by itself has its stigmas. And many people that suffer from that or have anxiety about it. I don't share that sentiment, but I've known a fair... Sorry. It's my tick for this video. It's easy when you get into your own head to just keep reusing a certain word or term. Just at the top of my head, I can remember a few people over the years that I've known. I would consider them still my friends. It's just that I haven't talked to them in a couple of years because they live in a different city, a couple of hours away, and yeah, they're just depressed people who tends to not always be the most outgoing, extroverted people, to say the least. But I remember in like my teenage years talking to some of them that they just felt so alone in their condition. And that's something also that I keep hearing when people write to me, that people feel a kind of kinship, or that they don't feel alone or less isolated when they learn about other people that share their struggle. And I think that should speak for itself. Because it should be considered worse to have to hide something that you shouldn't need to hide. And how are you helping anyone by not talking about it? You're just increasing the divide. And I guess it's a bit odd for an introverted, isolated misanthrope to talk about bringing people together, but it's not the goal, it's just a side effect. And there's nothing wrong about that, I think. Just like plenty of the things that I happen to have enjoyed over the years that generally are considered bad for yourself. My experience has been a good one. Not that I haven't been in pain or suffered. I just think that's irrelevant compared to the good that it gives or brings. Because if you really care about something, no matter if it's a hobby or your career or yourself or anything in between, if you're not prepared to be in pain for it or because of it, well, do you really care? that doesn't mean that you have to be a masochist or something like that. There's always an extent when it becomes counterproductive. But you need to know the different steps to see where in that scale you are. And I think sharing these experiences and thoughts are a pretty important part of that path. So I know it's easy to make assumptions. And as time passes and I'm getting a better understanding of what I would like to do or share through this channel, I'm just starting to care less and less about whatever it means to be demonetized or not, because the kind of person that I am and the kind of followers that I generally have are not the kind of people that they want to advertise to in the first place. But yeah, it's kind of a compromise, because there's not really any other place to go to that has the same kind of platform and benefits for what I'm doing. Not that I can think of. And I've looked around, and most places require more from me than what I initially get back, and I'm not at a position to make investments at the moment. But I just can assume, both about myself but to many of you, that you're not the kind of person that needs to know about what car or soft drink to get, what shirt or pair of pants to put on. So why are those people allowed to make those decisions? It's ridiculous. But somehow that's their game. And I'm not sure what I can do about it. It's pretty easy to not curse. You could to not overuse profanity. That's pretty easy. Like, it's just, sure, it can be comfortable to just say whatever is on your mind, but to me that's just lazy. It's not like I don't curse in my personal life. It can be useful, but if you do it all the time, it starts to lose its purpose. If you're not capitalizing letters when they're supposed to be, if it's all caps, then it's just ridiculous once again. And of course there's always plenty of more useful things that I could say about I'm not sure. I just want to make sure that I at least can share my thoughts and experiences without the actual video getting removed. That's the most important part. Because I personally I'd rather release a EP or shirt or something like that and sell it for half the price, if that's something that will for example have you as a subscriber on my channel, than not talk about things that I find to be useful and interesting. Because everything about hypothermia and life lover, for example, that is and has been a big part of my life, and there's plenty of things that I haven't shared so far as a kind of censorship, just to think about them a bit deeper and be able to also get as deep as possible into these stories and subjects without repeating myself too much or accidentally telling someone else's story that perhaps prefers to be left out. I don't have the energy to handle people threatening me about just ridiculous, boring stuff. It's just not interesting. It's a waste of energy and time. Yeah. I'm the last person to care about wasting time, but energy on the other hand. That's something far more important. And that's why I'm making this video, because just thinking about this the past few weeks has been something that makes me tired and removes energy that I rather put into recording music. So that's what I'm going to do. And with that, I thank you for watching, and if you have something better to do, I'm sorry about wasting your time, about rambling too much about this subject, but I'd rather make a video about it than keep answering different comments about it. Because I don't know how many reads my comments, because there's no statistics about that really, but I do know how many that watches a video, and generally I know that most of you don't watch this far in a video, so I don't feel the need to apologize to you. You can fuck off. But those of you who actually watch what I do or say, you're the ones that I thank and apologize to. If you didn't want to watch me ramble, well, you probably guessed it about 10 minutes ago that this is more of a ramble than explanation, monologue. But that's also why I needed to make something like this, because I want to make more monologues and talks about subjects rather than just feel like I'm rambling, because then I can make a more conscious effort that I think increases the quality of what I can bring to a subject that I'm discussing. Yeah. And as always, requests for future videos are always welcome. There will be plenty of music coming out soon. And I'll see what else comes up the next few weeks. Thanks again, and take care.